Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mack Story.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Today's pretty cool because today is the 200th episode of the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. I remember a friend of mine, Derek Brown, started his podcast, and he told me, Mac, you got to do this. It's so easy. And I thought, well, I don't know how easy it is. But then he showed me. He actually did an interview with me on his podcast, Encouragement for Life. And then he actually come up to my and put up his laptop, did the interview with me, and I saw how easy it was. 2 days later, I had started my podcast, and we're into year 3 now, and the 200th episode. So thank you for listening today. Today, I'm going to continue to dive deeper into my series on my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Culture, the 5 components for building high-performance teams. And today, we're on chapter 22 of 30. Chapter 22 is Provide Continuous Education. The subtitle is Maintain a Library of Personal Growth and Leadership Development Resources. So if you've been listening, following along, you know I'm talking about the 4th component, fourth out of 5, relative to the transformation equation that I introduced to you back in chapter 6, which is competency. And I believe last episode I told you there's 7 chapters underneath this component of competency. We've covered 2 already, so we've got 5 to go. But what I'm going to start doing with you now is taking you in these next 5, starting with today. These next 5 chapters is going to be how do you actually do it? How do you develop people relative to cultural transformation, which we're talking about character. The last 2, I talked about competency, and I talked about skills, abilities, knowledge, that sort of stuff, and kind of transitioned into the competency relative to cultural development is character development. And so that's what I'm going to share. 5 different chapters, 5 different episodes coming up, starting again with today, on how do you actually grow and develop people. So I want to start off today with a quote by Carol S. Dweck. She says, growth-minded leaders, they start with a belief in human potential and development, both their own and other people's. Instead of using the company as a vehicle for their greatness, they use it as an engine of growth for themselves, the employees, and the company as a whole. That's a pretty powerful statement right there. And what she's talking about is what I refer to as high-impact leaders, which are definitely growth-minded leaders, because high-impact leaders believe in human potential and developing people and unleashing their potential. So let's begin to look at how we can develop people. And these methods that I'm going to share with you over the next 5 episodes will help you facilitate cultural transformation. And these are not things you do once and forget. These are things you must do continuously, to some degree, for the life of the organization, if you want to become and remain a sought-after employer of choice. And remember, that's what this entire book and this series is about, is for helping the top leader create an organization where they're attracting top talent and retaining top talent, so they no longer have to go out and search for good people, because they're attracting great people. And they do that by becoming the sought-after employer of choice in their industry, in their area of operations. But again, these are things you do continuously. I know a lot of you in the United States, and I have listeners in, I think, 120 or 140 countries. So those of you in the United States, many of you are familiar with Chick-fil-A and how they operate their business. Very efficient, very clean. Service is off the charts. Quality of their food is really amazing. But how they treat each other internally and how they treat their customers externally is pretty amazing. A lot of people trying to live up to that standard. But what you see there, when I talk about doing what I'm about to teach you in these next 5 chapters continuously, Chick-fil-A has been doing it for over 50 years. That's what you see. You didn't see something they started. They didn't have an organization for 48 years and with no leadership development, no people development, operating traditionally where people just are doing what they do and no one's pouring in or investing in them. And then the next year they decided to do what I'm talking to you about, and all of a sudden they're amazing. No, it doesn't work that way. They've been doing it 50 plus years. And they started out that way. Truett Cathy started them out that way. So they didn't have to undo and redo and change mindsets and change values. They had it from the beginning. Most companies that I support, they've been in business quite a while. They've never done this type thing. So they got a lot of people in there who don't value this because they haven't been doing it in the past. So there's going to be a lot of resistance. We talked about that back in the buy-in chapters. But that's why the transformation equation is set up the way it is and why I'm teaching you this the way that I am. And again, I hope you dive into the book. And if you're a formal authority leader, you dive into the book, you see what it's about. If you buy into it, you believe in it, then you need to take all of your top leaders through this book. Get them on the same page. And as you dive into it, there's going to be resistance. We talked about it. There's going to be anxiety. We talked about it. When you go in and you ask managers of people to become leaders of people, and you start talking about all the stuff I'm talking about, they get uncomfortable in a hurry because they understand they're about to have to get out of their comfort zone. So one way you do that, now that we're talking about how do you do it, you maintain a library of personal growth and leadership development resources. Use the company's resources to grow and develop the people. What I'm talking about is, as you discover books, create a library of those books. Create a space where people can check them out. I always tell my clients, hey, when you create this library of books, make sure everybody knows, hey, sign in the back cover or the front cover, sign inside of it somewhere so that other people who are reading it will know who else has also read it. So they understand who's kind of on the same page with them. But I remember one client back when I was doing lean manufacturing a lot, Madix, they done a phenomenal job. I was leading them with lean manufacturing, consulting, and also leadership development, personal growth for their workforce. But when I talked to them about maintaining a library, man, they did it so amazing. The leaders in this organization, they built an entire room inside of one of their big manufacturing plants. Really big room. I don't remember the size of it, but I just guess it was maybe 30 by 50 or something like that. And it was they built this room for lean and leadership, for conducting training. I mean, it was a wicked room. And one of the things that they did was they installed on one end of the room, they installed, a big bookshelf type thing. And the reason I say thing is because it had sliding doors on it, and the doors were whiteboard. So they could also be used on the outside for all of the training and discussion to write things on or to write quotes on. But when you slid those doors open, in the beginning, they just had a few leadership books. But after several years, this thing was full of books. It was full of books on all types of leadership from all types of authors. And it was full of all type of lean resources from multiple authors. So they could learn all about leadership, personal growth and development, And then also process improvement. And they had videos in there and all sort of things like that. But it was massive. And they had multiple copies of a lot of books. And the people actually didn't have to return the books. If they wanted to keep the book, they could take the book. But then they also had a set of books that they kind of maintained, and the people who were hungry could come in and check them out and read them. And they just done a phenomenal job of creating that resource. Exactly what I'm talking about here. And this was nearly 10 years ago, while I'm recording this, that my clients were doing this sort of thing and getting results. So personal growth and development is an inside job that requires confidence, humility, and ultimately a desire to get better. And as a leader, it's your responsibility to support your team. When you support your team, guess what's going to happen? They're going to support you. And the way they do it is with working safer, being more productive, improving processes when they don't have to simply because they want to. That's the kind of stuff you're going to generate. That's the kind of support you're going to generate when you support your team. You grow and develop your team, they want to be on your team. They want to be a part of your team. And again, you start talking about attracting top talent. Top talent values growth and development. If you don't have a library for personal growth and development established in your facility, or if you've got a really large organization, should be in multiple facilities. If you don't have that, you can't tell anybody about that. But if you do have that and it's well established, when you're interviewing top talent and you tell them, we value leadership, personal growth, and leadership development so much that we've got an extensive library for our people, and we buy books and we hand out books and all kind of stuff like that. That tells them a lot about you. It tells them a lot about you, because if I was interviewing today to work someplace, those folks going to get a personal growth and leadership development interview from me. And I know there's a whole lot of people who work in organizations who pour into developing themselves, and I talk to them and I know they may still have a regular job doing what they enjoy doing. They don't speak and teach and write like I do, but they still value this because it allows them to get tremendous results in their life. And I know those people, if they ever choose to go to another job, they're interviewing the interviewer as much, if not more, than they're being interviewed. That's what high impact, top talent people do. That's why it's so important. If you want to attract those people, you got to become an organization that's capable of attracting those people. If not, you're going to repel those people. And you may not ever even have them sit down in front of you. It's one of the reasons people say they can't find good people. Because the reason is those good people are avoiding their organization. They don't even understand their paradigm, their frame of reference. These leaders think this is the way it is everywhere. It's not the way it is everywhere. There's some phenomenal organizations out there, and they've got people lined up waiting to get in. Completely the opposite of what a lot of companies have. So the remainder, again, of this competency section, it's not only about how you provide development for everyone on your team, but more importantly, it's about how you feed those who are hungry. And I'm going to have a whole chapter underneath this competency component coming up later to talk more about that. But I say it quite often. But that's the point of these next 5 episodes, these 5 chapters from the book. It's definitely all about feeding those who are hungry. What I mean, they're hungry for growth and development. So when it comes to real sustainable culture change, the hungry people will be the tip of the spear. They're going to be your most valuable team members. It doesn't matter if they're driving a forklift, if they welding on the front lines, if they digging ditches, or if they're in frontline management, middle management, upper management, or if they're in support roles like engineering, quality, safety. It does not matter. What you need to know here is those people who are hungry, they're the ones who are going to accelerate your cultural transformation the most. It's not those who are resistant. they're going to kick and scream the whole way, and they may end up leaving the company, or you may end up leaving them. But the hungry ones, that's one thing this library does. It feeds the hungry. It gives them resources so they don't have to figure out, how do I get development? What do I need to do? You're providing it for them. They may be reading books and recommending books for you to add to the library. That's what hungry people do. They will lead the way, and they will help you the most. So you must be willing to support them the most. Don't just introduce this and you see some hungry people and say, wow, they fired up, and then just leave them on their own. You got to be a fired up, high impact leader who's pouring in and developing those folks. They need support. They want support. So when you provide the hungry with a library, both physically with books, and you can also do it digitally with videos or audios on some type of intranet inside the company's system, where they can access it from wherever they are. You can do that with digital videos and audios. When you do that, you're providing them a place to feed themselves. And when they start feeding themselves, they will reveal themselves. That's why when you start a library, you can start to see who's feeding themselves, who's coming in checking out books, who's diving in deep. If I'm the top leader, I need to know who that is. If I'm responsible for leading cultural transformation, I need to know who that is. The first group I want to know is who on my leadership team from top to bottom is hungry. Because I need them all to be hungry, but when I first start, I got to figure out who is actually hungry, who already is naturally hungry, because those are the ones I have to pour into. The fastest, and the most. When you talk about these libraries, I'm reminded of a quote by Russell Conwell. He says, show an observant person your bookshelves, and they'll tell you what you are. You can tell a whole lot about a person by what they read or don't read. Most people don't read nothing. That tells you a whole lot about those people. They don't read nothing. They just on cruise control, and they get what they get accidentally through life. That tells you one thing. But then there are a whole lot of intentional people, and that tells you a lot. You come and look at my office, at my bookshelf, you're going to know what I value. You walk into my wife's office, Rhea, into her office, and look at her books, you're going to know what she values. And some people, you may go in there and they don't have a single book on growth and development. They may be reading some type of fiction book, and they got hundreds of fiction books, but that still tells you what they value the most, because that's what they pour in their time into. But I'm talking about looking for people who are hungry for growth and development, personally and professionally. And remember, I've told you before about 87% of our results come from character, 13% from competency. So when I'm talking to you about creating this leadership library, I highly recommend 80% of your books in that library should be on personal growth, leadership development. 20% should be on whatever you guys do in your organization. If you're in the concrete business, there should be books in there that the people who have a high degree of competency relative to the work you actually do would read and recommend. For those people who want to learn more about the product you manufacture, or the service you provide, or the components you use, or the industry you're in, definitely add that too. But what I'm talking to you about is cultural transformation. So I want you to have personal growth and leadership development books. That's what I'm focused on. But there's nothing should stop you from adding competency-based stuff relative to the knowledge, skill, jobs, and that sort of stuff. Create something really unique and really wicked. And let me tell you something about this library. I shared with you about my client that I supported with lean manufacturing, Madix. That room they built, the books they had. I mean, it was an awesome room. And so what's pretty cool is whenever the sales department, sales force, when they were bringing in customers or potential customers, something really neat they would do is they would always tour them past that room. A lot of times we were in there doing training and development. We'd stop and talk to them. They could ask questions, but they would show them the library and all that kind of stuff. You think about positive word of mouth advertisement. When you bring someone into your organization, especially a client or a potential client, and you say, hey, look, this is what we do. This is how we grow and develop our workforce. That tells them you're different. That tells them you value your people. They're going to know you have more highly engaged people. Had another client in Houston, Texas. Jeff Kilgore is the CEO, and Ken Kilgore, his brother, is the COO of Kilgore Construction. They're a big MEP construction outfit based in Houston, but they operate all throughout Texas and sometimes outside of Texas. We've been there several of the past years doing a day and a half of on-site leadership development, personal growth, and workshops. They have a library. Actually, when I was there, they actually had books at the front counter at the headquarters that anybody can take. It was pretty neat for me to walk in and see some of my books. They have a library of books that they give out to the people as well. But they had my books sitting on the front counter. I believe they had Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines, and Blue Collar Leadership and Supervision, Unleash Your Team's Potential, sitting in little book stands on the front counter. And they give them out to anybody. It could be customers. It could be suppliers. It's also talking points. People see it and they say, what's this? And then it allows the people to talk about what they do. It's pretty phenomenal. When you go into Kilgore Construction, you know you're in a construction business like no other. I mean, there may be some other ones like that, but I haven't seen them yet. But I'm trying to help grow and develop other construction companies to become more like Kilgore. Kilgore is a model and an example. And they've been into personal growth and leadership long before they discovered my brand and Blue Collar Leadership, but it really resonated with them. So we've done a lot with them. They use our books a lot. But I mean, they have like a pro room. It's this thing you walk out of the break room, got a big old room in there with beautiful shelves in it, awesome lighting, solid glass wall, and they've got all kind of company corporate gear in there. They got polos with the Kilgore logo. They got golf bags, all kinds of shirts. I mean, all kinds of things. People can buy it, but they also give reward as gifts for people who've achieved excellence and things like that. I don't know the exact details, but I know sometimes people are able to go in there and select a gift because of their performance or something like that. But they also can purchase, company equipment. But it's just wicked when you go in there and you think, I mean, most of the construction companies that I've been in look like a construction company. Some of them are really, really nice, and they should be because they're in the construction business. They ought to have a nice, awesome headquarters to show who we are and what we can do. And that's kind of the competency side of it. But the truly exceptional ones, they have the stuff like I just described to you at Kilgore. And again, this is a blue collar construction company. And they've got a leadership library. And they got some of the other things I'm going to talk about in the next few chapters, where I'm talking about how do you do it. That's how you do it. So I'm going to leave you with a quote from Stephen R. Covey. He says, anything less than a conscious commitment to the important is an unconscious commitment to the unimportant. I'm going to say it one more time, then I'm going to let you go for the day. Anything less than a conscious commitment to the important is an unconscious commitment to the unimportant. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mack Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mack's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.